If you're a Tesla employee with RSUs, this video could save you a meaningful percentage of your wealth over the course of your career. We're going to look at 4 different strategies for handling RSUs and see how each one would have performed over a 10-year period of time using real tax and market data. Here are the 4 strategies. Plan 1, do nothing. Plan 2, optimize for taxes only. Plan 3, optimize for taxes and reduce concentration risk through conservative diversification. Plan 4, reduce taxes, cut concentration risk, and diversify into higher returning assets. Look, I get it. You probably view your Tesla shares as rocket boosters propelling your net worth into the stratosphere. Why risk the opportunity of a lifetime by diversifying? Well, I can tell you, watching this video at a minimum will help you reduce the capital gains tax drag on your wealth vehicle's performance. For our analysis, meet our hypothetical Tesla employee. Hired in 2015, right as Tesla was scaling up Model S production and beginning to disrupt the global auto industry. Initial RSU grant, $250,000, vesting over 4 years, with 25% vesting at the end of year 1 and quarterly vesting thereafter. 5 years later, a big promotion brings another $400,000 vesting quarterly over 4 years. Then $100,000 in equity refreshers in both 2023 and 2024, again vesting quarterly over 4 years. Total RSUs received $850,000 against the backdrop of one of the most electrifying corporate growth stories in market history. So how would he have done with the different strategies? Let's find out. Plan 1, do nothing. No advisor, no strategy, just watch the stock rocket. Sounds great until it isn't. One major EV competitor breakthrough, one recall, one production stumble, and he risks not only being financially drained, but also unemployed and maybe even living in a Cybertruck down by the river. Then there's a tax bill that he's been ignoring. By 2025, he's sitting on $8.4 million in capital gains and owes $2.8 million to the IRS and state. Net of taxes and adding back the RSU values at vesting, he's worth $7.9 million. That's impressive, but he got lucky, and luck isn't a strategy. Plan 2, tax optimization. This is where it gets interesting. This time, the Tesla employee sells shares as they vest. At TechView Wealth Advisors, we encourage our clients to sell shares as they vest, since there's no tax consequences, as there's no capital gains. This will free up money for living expenses, which in turn frees up salary for something far more interesting: tax-sheltered accounts. The employee maxes out a mega backdoor Roth in his 401k, and he and his spouse each fund backdoor Roths. And at TechView Wealth Advisors, we encourage our clients to even set up Roths for their kids that are doing real work. So each of his 2 children are working for the family-owned business. They each make $250 a month. That's $3,000 a year. So he sets up Roths for each of them to the tune of $3,000 a year, and he also maxes out his family HSA. In Plan 1, the employee assumed he was maxing out his 401k by maxing out his elective deferral, when in reality he wasn't anywhere close. Now he's funding beyond that point with after-tax dollars in Roth accounts, both in and outside of his 401k. The result? Investment gains can be shielded from taxes forever. Over the 10-year period, he managed to shield anywhere from 11% to all of his RSU compensation from capital gains taxes. Very impressive. How much better off was the employee using the tax optimization strategy? Well, to answer that, we're going to assume he only invests in Tesla shares. Now, of course, we would never recommend to a client to maintain such a heavy exposure to a single stock, but this will allow us to measure exactly how much in gains comes from tax efficiency alone. Plan 2 generated the same $8.4 million in capital gains, but only about $1.2 million in capital gains taxes, saving $1.6 million in taxes versus Plan 1. That's the power of tax efficiency, generated purely through smarter account allocation. Plan 3, tax optimization plus diversification. This time the employee decides he wants his RSU strategy to not only reduce his taxes, but also cut his concentration risk. So he listens to Warren Buffett's advice for the average investor and invests in a broad-based ETF. Just as with Plan 2, He sells his Tesla shares when his RSUs vest, using the proceeds to fund living expenses. Once again, he uses his salary to maximize contributions to retirement accounts across his household, and with any extra money deposited into a taxable account. In following Warren Buffett's advice, the employee selects the popular SPDR S&P 500 ETF. So how did he do with Plan 3? Well, as with Plan 2, he lowered his tax burden. But, as you guessed, the S&P 500 couldn't match Tesla's extraordinary performance. His wealth net of taxes? Just $3.8 million. Better than the first strategy of doing nothing from a risk standpoint, but still leaving a significant amount of money on the table. At Techie Wealth Advisors, unlike your average financial advisor, we like to invest in what we call stealth monopolies. These are companies that dominate global markets. There are about 10 such companies that have, in the past, often outperformed the broader market. Plan 4, tax optimization plus stealth monopolies. What if this time the employee invested not in the broader index, but in an equally weighted portfolio of the Magnificent Seven, dominant cash-generating companies with competitive advantages so high the odds of their success is skewed heavily in their favor? Once again, he lowered his capital gains taxes and eliminated concentration risk. But this time, his net wealth after 10 years, $8.1 million. That's more than double the index fund strategy and $220,000 better than the do-nothing strategy. The scoreboard. Here's the bottom line. Plan 2, generating an extra $1.6 million through tax optimization, is the overall winner, but not when you adjust for risk. Plan 4, yielding just $1.4 million less at $8.1 million in net wealth, but without the single stock Russian Roulette, that's the clear winner. On Wall Street, we have a saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Be smart, lower your taxes, cut your concentration risk, and invest in businesses built to dominate. So you're convinced of the right strategy, but perhaps you're sitting on a pile of RSUs with massive embedded gains. Don't worry, we help people just like you unwind big positions, taking into account tax timing, fundamentals, price momentum, and geopolitical risk. Let's talk. Found this video helpful? Hit like and help other Tesla employees make the most of their RSUs. And finally, as usual, my parting gift, the mandatory disclosure slide. Thanks for watching.